A very warm good afternoon to all. I am Dr. Rashmi Chauhan, an Associate Professor at Department of Management Studies, BS Anangpuria Educational Institutes. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of BS Anangpuria Education Institute. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome all 1757 participants joined from different regions across India. Our today's session will highlight the review process and probable reasons for its rejections and the steps to avoid minor overlooks. Rejections does not necessarily implies your research is a fundamentally unsuitable. There may be several factors that might not be solely linked to the main thrust of the research. It's very important to understand and analyze the possible reasons to avoid such issues in future, and who is better than an editor of an eminent publication to help us through. I will now hand over the proceedings to Ms. Kamna Singh, Head of the Management Department, BSAITM, to introduce today's eminent speakers. Ma'am, we welcome you. It's a pleasure to have you here. Please, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I, Kamna, Head Department of Management Studies, welcome you all in today's session. It gives me an immense pleasure to address you all on the fourth day of this FDP program. The objective of today's session will take a brief review of reasons for rejection of research papers and advise how to deal with rejections. If you wish to publish good quality research papers and have faced rejections, today's session will help you understand common reasons for rejection so that you may rectify the deficiencies before you submit your work. You stand a better chance of acceptance if your due care is taken while preparing your manuscript. One questions keep disturbing authors of rejected papers. If I have and done a useful study and have written to the perfection and to my satisfaction, why did the editors and reviewers reject my paper? So the answer is one must remember that world's best revolutionary trials and path-breaking research are submitted to these prestigious journals. Hence, a paper of lower quality and priority is most likely to be rejected. Rejection is common in academic publishing, but after years of research and months of writing and formatting a perfectly crafted research paper, nobody wants to see their research go unpublished. So for researchers, getting their research accepted in the first attempt is rare, and it's even more difficult for first timers. However, knowledge of the reasons that leads publishers to reject papers can dramatically improve your odds of getting published. So in today's session, Dr. Sudhir Rana sir will help you to know about the reasons and how you can improve the quality of your research. Before that, I would like to introduce Dr. Sudhir Rana sir. Welcome you, sir. Dr. Sudhir Rana is Chairperson of Fellow Program in Management, Ph.D. He is an Associate Professor of Marketing and Chairperson at the Fortune Institute of International Business and Adjunct Faculty at Maastricht School of Management, Netherlands and Kuwait. His research area includes consumer behavior, international marketing and business education. He is an MBA and PhD with MHRD scholarship from Government of India and postdoctorate from Putra Business School, University of Putra, Malaysia. He published numerous papers with Emerald, Elsewhere, Taylor and Francis, Sage, InderScience, etc. He is the editor of FIIB Business Review, which is published quarterly by Sage Publications, South Asian Journal of Marketing, Emerald, and Advances in Emerging Markets and Business Operations, published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis. He is a researcher at heart and spends all his time either teaching or in research work. He has been mentoring budding researchers from long time back. So we are really excited to hear from you, sir. Welcome, sir. Once again, welcome. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Team Anangpuria, Dr. Sudhir Kaur, Dr. Rashmi, Dr. Kamna. So nice of you for giving me this chance to have a word with many authors and every participant who is here in the session. Uh, like, uh, I'm sure that this FDP I have taught you many things related to methodology, structure, but still, the only thing I'm just trying to collate that. I'm bringing everything under one umbrella. And whatever I'm going to share is my experience being an author and being an editor. So, whatever regions I'm going to share may fit to you, may not fit to you, but many of these would look common. So, I'm going to share my experiences. You may take it, may not. That's only the only thing is that I have been working for the journals that Dr. Kamna have just mentioned. And what do I look in a manuscript before I pass it from the desk to reviewers? And when I read the reviewers' comment and pass a decision on it, whether I'm gonna give it an R or rejecting it or selecting it, the manuscript undergo to several procedures. Not only submission is enough. So I'm gonna share all those with you. I have one request that you will have to keep noting the points because I may not I may refrain sharing a PPT and don't find it wrong. It is just to create a curiosity in your mind that what are the all pointers that I'm speaking. How much curious are you to learn more on those? These are very general, yet I'll emphasize them with the importance of these. So be with me. Let's share this journey together. Uh, okay, when I'm bringing some experience, some journals, some publishers, I worked myself and I'm still working as an author or as an editor. The journal FIIB Business Review, which is being published by Sage, I'm an editor since more than 4 years for this journal. When I took over this journal was at this was more of a regional journal rather than an international journal. And what did I expect from my authors and reviewers is something that I'm going to put. Past year, I started a series with Routledge, Taylor, and Francis. I'm publishing this year two volumes which are under production, and the third journal is a new journal that I've just taken charge as an editor in Emerald. Elsewhere, I have worked as author myself and published up to Journal of Business Research, which is one of the prestigious journal in Elsewhere. While I contribute as a reviewer. So what I'm trying to bring is I'm trying to bring different lenses from my different roles, being an editor to an author to a reviewer. So, and something that I'm going to share today with you is that all the journals are not same. Like one to which I author and one to which I'm editor, their expectations are different. So I'm going to state that how do you match the expectations of editors, reviewers, and the publisher as community as a whole. So when we look at the journals, different journals have different expectations, and so the journal editors have. For example, it's a new journal. So the new journal, like Emerald, I'm talking about South Asian Journal of Marketing, is a new journal. So what do we want? We want, and please take it in a healthy way. We want to have papers that are citable, because when a journal is at infancy stage or new, the journal want to publish something which is more citable and the authors to whom people have been citing. So your work, if you're publishing or submitting to a new journal, it's not probably that the expectation of a new journal would be lower in terms of quality. Rather, they would look for a theme or a paper that have more potential in getting citations, because citations are the common interest not only to authors, to the journals as well. Whereas if you think about a journal like FIB Business Review, FIB Business Review is in mid in the ladder somewhere. It is not very high like Journal of Business Research, but it is not as new as South Asian Journal of Marketing. So what expectations will I have being an editor there? My expectations would be that the article should attract have a potential to uh, narrate the dynamic into the topics, some newness in the theory, mm, should reflect a good readership, should have a potential to attract more readers, because at this stage journal is not only an investment for a publisher. From where publishers revenue come? Publishers revenue come only when journal gets subscription. So therefore my responsibility is to publish something that has a potential to get sold. So there my expectation is different. If you think about a journal where I'm contributing as a reviewer, then I'm probably not looking at both of these aspects. I'm not looking that the article have a sellability in the market, or article have a potential to get more number of citation. No, my point of view changes there. My point of view is that what is new in the paper, what is the argument that author is trying to produce in the manuscript. So I'm more critical, because I'm not the one who is going to have a decision on acceptance or rejection of the paper. That decision remains with the editor, but my comments will help out authors and editor in terms of bringing more quality to the paper, and in terms of improving the quality of the paper. Um, and making them to decide whether article will go forward in the journal or not. But at the same time, stating it that all the editors will have same expectations, no, it is very difficult to say. They will not have. So if a journal that is you're looking at a Q1 in Scopus will not have the expectation, which is a new journal like my journal FIB Business Review is very new in Scopus now. It doesn't even have an impact factor yet, if I talk about the real impact factor, but yet it is indexed. But when you look at journal like European Journal of Management, or Journal of Business Research, or Journal of Consumer Marketing, which are more prestigious, or Journal of Consumer Behavior, or Journal of Management, which is more prestigious, International Journal of Management Review, or Journal of International Business Studies, which are more prestigious journal, their expectation would be really different than what my expectations are. So all journal editors will not have the same expectations, but they will have something in common. So I'm going to talk both the things though, because when it comes to the differentiation, it is very difficult to generalize that what they will look, but it is somewhere obvious that something is that they would look forward in a manuscript. So what I'm beginning my argument is with, that this FDP might have given you some content and you're ready to produce your manuscript, but before you actually go ahead and submit it to any of the publication outlet, please prepare your checklist that your manuscript is having all what I'm going to say. And you may like to check whether have you actually given tick mark to the content that I'm going to suggest, or you still need to rework. If you think that you need to rework on it, then please rework on it before you submit. So these are certain points where I'm going to touch to what editors may expect from you when you're submitting your paper. How do you know that that something is fit for the journal or not? How do you avoid some common pitfalls?
Sorry to
How,
interrupt you, sir.
yeah,
There is something blinking on your PPT.
is it? Let me reshare it again. Okay. Um, Please do let me know if the problem still exists. Is it fine now?
Is it fine? Now it is fine, sir. I'll let you know
Fine.
if it persists again.
Please.
Okay.
So nice of you. Thank you so much. Please feel free to interrupt and
That's so nice of you, sir.
when
Thank you so
there
much.
is any problem. So I just begin my argument by saying that all the editors will not have the same expectations. And so how we are going to look at it, we are going to look at some common expectations and some different expectations. Difference we cannot cover because it's very person to person. Editors are human being, and what do they expect from one other in terms of quality, in terms of your contribution to the knowledge field. It is very difficult to state, but yet what we can do is we can look at the common standard expectations that every editor would like to have. So these are some contents that I'm going to touch upon. Some I'll speed up, keeping time constraint in mind, and leave to you to explore further. Some I'll give more stress on, keeping my role into mind. So I would cover like what editor can expect from you, so that whenever you submit a final draft rather than the one that come return to you from the desk. Then I'm going to suggest to you something on avoiding pitfalls into when you make a submission. Then how do you understand the review process? How do you respond to the review process? And how do you deal with the rejections? And how do you understand the expectations of editors and reviewers to win their heart and mind? So what do you think what editors expect? If anything, feel free to unmute yourself and interact. I'm sorry, the organizers. Please allow me to do that.
Sure, sir. If anybody has any question, please raise your hand.
Yeah,
I'll unmute you.
yeah. So, what do you think? What editors expect? Anyone from the audience? I'm sure that many of you must have processed a number of submissions till now. So, what is your experience? What do editors expect?
Please raise hand for the reply. I'll unmute you.
Yeah, four is enough. Dr. Rashmi, can you please unmute them one by one?
Sir, they are typing in the chat box only. They are not speaking actually. You can
Okay.
open the chat box and you can interact from there only.
Okay.
Mr. Prakash has commented that expect contemporary issues.
Mm-hmm. Contemporary issues. What else?
Research methods is there.
Research method. What
Original
else?
work.
Original work.
Current
Mm-hmm.
topics.
Current topic, contemporary topics.
New information.
Mm-hmm. What else? These are very general.
Writing style.
Writing style,
Empirical evidence of study.
not always.
New research techniques.
Not always.
Benefit to society.
Not always.
Reference.
That's submission guideline. That's the minimum thing. Okay.
Benefit
Okay.
to
Benefits to
them. Plagiarism.
themselves.
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism.
Content.
Mm-hmm. Content is. These are very broad aspects. I want to hear something specific.
Standard testing method used in the study.
Mm, okay. Okay. Anyway, let me tell you that what do we expect. As I already said, that there is a variation in the journal in terms of ranking, in terms of indexing, in terms of their contribution to the knowledge domain. So they have different expectations. Here is what my take is, that where there is a standardization and where there is a variation. When I look that what every editor expect, like all of you have said was not wrong, you, every one of you was correct. Every editor expect that a manuscript should be well structured and must have a quality content. Every editor expect that. No editor would say that I would take a manuscript which is unstructured and which is not right in the comment. Every editor will at least seek this. Okay, scholarly communication, the way of writing, the way of getting techniques into it, or enabling your manuscript, that how you're going to prove your arguments, is something that every editor expect. Readership of the journal, like I said, that the way you look at it, you look at it the contemporary content, you look at it as the quality content, and I, being an editor, look at it that does the content have potential to attract good readership. So this is something every editor expect. But where the variation is, and this is where I would like to have your attention on. All the editors do not expect, but many editors expect. They expect their authors to know their scholarly contribution. You must know the editor, and specifically when you're targeting the quality journals. Reason I'll tell you. Editor in with any of the quality publisher or of a good indexing or ranking must have a significant research background. And like I'm in marketing, I'm now moving from the multidisciplinary journal to more specific marketing journals. And somebody who is expert in finance would go to finance journal. Somebody who is expert in HR will go to HR journals. Somebody who is expert in digital marketing, moreover, will go to digital marketing journal, or will go to a psychology journal. Therefore, there are very high chances that you will find some of the scholarly contribution by these editors. And what these editors expect. These editors expect you as an author or reader to know their scholarly contribution. And they feel happy if you read their contribution. That's a human nature. Somewhere, because they are having these posts, you may agree that that these editors have some additional experience of contributing into the scholarship journal than what we have. When I'm naming any journal which is of A or A star ranking in ABDC, then that is very obvious that the editor in chief or my area editor will have more scientific contribution than what I have. Therefore, it becomes obvious for me to read what their contribution is. And trust me, I do read not only on occasion basis, I read them on regular basis, because they are the domain expert in my area. They are not only the editors, they are the knowledge contributors too. Then what do they expect? They expect, are you reviewing for their journal? If you are reviewing for their journal, it means that you are familiar with the standard of journal. It means you're familiar with the structure that journal follows. It means you're familiar that what is journal publishing and what is not. So they expect you to serve the community. Reason being that the more the authors are in any journal, the more they need a reviewer. It is not that in a journal the queue for author is high and they will not have any reviewers. No, it is not. They expect you to review for them. So volunteer. When you will volunteer, the journals will be able to expedite the review process. When more reviewers will be there, when you will reply, very in a fast track, then this will create a smooth functioning of review process. So they expect you to be a reviewer. Then what do they want? They want recognition. It's a volunteer job that these editors and reviewers put in. They do not get paid, and they do not charge any money. If we talk about all the good publishers and good journals, they are for free. They publish your papers for free. These editors handle their your our manuscripts for free. So what they want a little recognition when you're writing them a letter. Give them due respect. When you're responding to the review response in your response letter, please try to say that, yes, I found your comments useful and thank you so much for conducting this review process. Feel humbled. This is what they expect. Trust me, they expect it. And I'm not talking only about me, I'm talking about whole experience. Then what do they expect? They expect citing the work which has been published in their journal. I when I spoke other day to you, I told you that there is a matrix that gets generated with every publisher for every email ID and author uh, who are submitting there, because this is metadata. This automatically get captured by the publishers, and how many manuscript you have submitted, that also get there. How many manuscript you have accepted to review, does get captured there. How many manuscript you have reviewed, and what is the rating. We also give rating to the reviewers. There is a 5-point scale on which we say that, oh, this was the quality of review. The review was good or not, suggestions were there or not, it was a constructive review or not, it was timely review or not. So there are certain pointers on which editors, if they like the review, they will definitely give you some rating. And the citation is, when I'm saying that they expect you to cite the work, the biggest mistake what authors do and what editor expect is not citing a few paper in the paper when you are submitting in their journal. For example, if you're submitting to South Asian Journal of Marketing and FIIB Business Review, what generally authors do, and specifically my Indian colleagues, they'll pull 5 papers from those journals. They'll refer in the manuscript and then submit it in the journal. They look at other review platforms like Publons, or they can open your Orchid. So they can anyway open your Google profile. They have all the access in a one click. Like I have the Orchid ID when you submit, so I can click on the Orchid and I can see that all what you have published, and there would be a DOI. I can click any of your paper and see that, oh, where you have published, what journals you have been citing and reading. So there I'll come to know that, have you been reading my journal or not? Have you been citing my journals or not? So we do not expect you to cite the paper in the draft that you are submitting to my journal. No, we don't do that. We expect you to cite regularly, because when you claim that you're a reader of the paper, of the journal, then it means that this is not the first time that you're reading the journal. You have been reading the journal since 1 year, 2 year, 5 years or so. And when you have been reading the journal since 2 years, 5 years, it means you have published something in that particular time span. And if you have published, you might have cited. This is how you relate your reading to your contribution. So they expect you to acknowledge the work that is which is being published by these journals, and they expect you to cite. Okay, so how do you know that this is a fit? There also they come to know that if you're publishing it in the core domain, they'll come to know that, are you the author to whom they are looking for? What is your scholarly contribution? As I said, that they click on to your either Google Scholar profile or a ResearchGate profile or a Publon profile or an Orchid ID, then please, you need to have a significant background of publishing into that domain. And specifically when you are targeting the journals which are higher on ladder, which is specifically A star journals or Q1 journals or ABS 4 4-star journals. So you need to do that. Rejections would happen. So rejection, we cannot refrain the rejections. Rejection are not in our hand. It is that what editors expect at that time, and how your manuscript is. But what I think is, if you will have all of these, then I'm sure your paper will not get desk rejection. Desk rejection comes only and only when you do not have a scholarly communication, your manuscript is not properly structured, you have not acknowledged the knowledge which is already existing in that particular domain. So these are the reasons. And when you are a reader of the journal, you review for the journal, you acknowledge the journal, then do you think that your paper is of a similar cadre, similar level to what you have been seeing in the journal? If you mix your paper with the any other papers of the recent volumes of that journal, does your paper look like similar, uniform to what journal has recently published in the past 3 volumes at least? If it does, then journal may be likely to publish your paper. Otherwise, you need to keep on trying. You need to know a hidden story before you actually approach to the journals. What editors do not like is they do not like a lot of reminders, and they also do not like casual communications. I'll tell you one my real case. There is a journal called CCSM. This is Cross Cultural and Strategic Management. It's published by Emerald, and I had a manuscript that I have been trying to the different journals. So there was a minimum level that I kept for this manuscript. I was wanted to expedite the review process because this was my need. And I was not looking at the assignments that editor have at that time. What I did is I waited for 2 3 months, and after 2 3 months I started following the editor that, okay, can you please give me the review feedback? Editor replied me that, okay, it'll take some time. Then again, editor took around 2 months. This was total 5 months time period. And what I did is, because the associate editor who was handling my manuscript was also connected to me on a Facebook. And trust me, I just asked that, Professor, can you look into the review process of my manuscript? And you know what happened? My manuscript was rejected next day in the morning. Editor was not expecting me. This is what exceptional I'm talking about, that you never know what one expect and what one does not. So, and she wrote me in the letter when I asked for the clarification that you are not supposed to get in touch with the editor on a social platform. Why you did it? I felt irritated. And why you were sending me reminders after every month or 2 months? You know that I'm doing my job, and when there will be a response, will come back to you. You're submitting to a journal that is more regimentary in nature and follow the rigor. Our reviewers are busy. I cannot send your manuscript to anybody. I'm sending your manuscript to a domain area expert. So before you approach to a journal and you decide, do you really know them well? That is the question. Do you know what is the acceptance rate of the journal? If the acceptance rate of the journal is 5%, 3%, 2%, or 15%, then does your manuscript have competence and standpoint to get accepted? Number one. Number two, do you know what is the turnaround time? Turnaround time, when I'm saying, you'll get on many of the elsewhere Sage, Emerald manuscripts having that manuscript was submitted on so and so date, manuscript was revised on so and so date, and was accepted on so and so date. So look at generally how many months, because it's a month's job, and specifically into the top tier journals, it's job of a years, not even months. So do you know the turnaround time that you will get your first review after, say, 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, and how much time it will take likely to get your paper accepted, and how many times possible revisions can be there? So be ready for those well in advance, because editors do not want you to get in touch with them again and again and asking the same question, that what happened to my manuscript, and what is the preferred communication. Do they want you to write just a comment there, like in the signs allow you to give a comment to editor there, where you submit your manuscript on the peer review platform? You will be able to give a comment to manuscript, which is very quick, and editor can also quickly comment there. So that's one convenience way. Whereas some allow to send an email. So you must know that maybe after waiting for that minimum period and plus 1 month, you'll have to always have a plus 1 month before you actually go and approach. And if you do not hear back from editor, then my advice is don't send multiple emails. It can put you in trouble. And if you get a reply from the editor, then probably whatever editor have stated, let them that time pass, let you wait for another 15-20 days, and after that you need to, and you should have a region. If suppose you're asking for them to expedite a review process, do you have a genuine region? And or otherwise, every manuscript is important for editors and for authors, and they are giving equal attention, because they also want to get the turnaround time minimum for the journal. They do not want to get it higher side, they want to have it at a lower side. So you need to look at that. And while you are revising your submission, you're going resubmission of your manuscript. So during the revision and resubmission phase, I'll show you a sample of response letter. This is how your response letter should be written. You should acknowledge them and how your response letter should be prepared. I'll share that sample. Then when you choose about the journal, your manuscript must read well. I'm sure that you must be knowing all these pointers. Your manuscript should have the everything according to the author's guideline. Don't forget to look at the author's guideline and prepare your manuscript accordingly. You may like to bring editors in your dialogues on some forums, like I am here with you today. It's a good chance to have a conversation that, okay, I have been reading your journal or reviewing for your journal, and this is something that I could not understand. And trust me, that question for an editor would be much more eye-catching if you're an author or a reviewer for the journal than to anybody else. So that is also one chance for you. So don't forget to interact with the editor, specifically for those where you're trying to publish your manuscript. When you write for the contribution, do not give very heavy words like this is something I did first time, this is something that has never done before. Please, no area is unexplored, and into today's information economy or information arena, there is nothing that come out of the box. So, and if that does, then journals may not like to take a risk to host it. Like, I'll give you just an instance that first 2 months of COVID, almost no good journal has hosted any manuscript on that. And once, when they were very sure, we have had a lot of dialogues between us that, okay, how do we look at it? I myself had an editors meet, and I participated in a couple of meets where editors have had a dialogue with each other, that whether we are going to host COVID-19 papers or not, and if yes, then what kind of papers are we going to. So you need to look at that, and you need to see that where your contribution is coming. You're solving a puzzle, you're giving an incremental growth into the theory, or any concept you're introducing. So when it comes to desk rejection, probably you have not followed the author guidelines, or probably your manuscript is not interesting enough, or doesn't have a good context or analysis, like all the points that you specifically have mentioned when I ask you to know the reasons of rejection of a manuscript. But what really matters is your writing. Editors hate bad languages, and so the reviewers. So remember that who is the audience. If you're writing for a top tier journal, then your audience is also going to be of that cadre. If you're writing for a non-category journal or journal which is more regional or national in nature, then they will probably have readership from there. So when you're writing for international journal with international publishers, they have audience from all across the globe. And what do they expect? They expect that universalness into the manuscript rather than the regional. So for example, you want to pick up a title of consumer behavior in Delhi. So somebody who is in Colombia, somebody who is in Paris, somebody who is in Indonesia, why they should learn the behavior of people in Delhi? What is the value for them? Because this journal is read by somebody who is in Colombia, who is in Paris, who is in London, who is in Indonesia, or who is in Malaysia, who is in Sri Lanka. So they have a much wider audience. You need to prepare something which is more universal, applicable to the global audience. And see, language should be very correct. My job as a reviewer is not to comment on the language. I'm a domain expert. I'm not a proofreader. I'm not a language editor. So I do not like to state that, okay, your this line is grammatically correct. Okay, you should rephrase your this line like that. I mean, you do not act in a way where editor and reviewers become the proofreaders for your manuscript. Avoid that. And have consistency into the format, references, citations. This matters a lot. Okay, this is something which is really important. Did you look at, because every manuscript when you submit does go to initial evaluation, and this initial evaluation is something which is being done on desk, and not necessarily done by the editor, like my assistant does it for me. So when a submission come, you must have seen that on the review platform. You see that awaiting initial checkups, or waiting for an ADM, or awaiting for assignment of an editor. So this is the job which is being done by somebody who does not understand your manuscript. Technical aspect they do not look at, but some standard checklist they have, and this is the actual checklist. So they would look like, okay, are all the authors there? Is manuscript blinded? Does it cover the word limit? Has an abstract or not within the word limit? How many keywords are there? And so on. So there are a number of points on which this get checked, and this get checked automatically, because once you submit, all data get captured by the software, by the server itself, and get appear or in the same format. For example, it will come here that how many words manuscript have. It will come how many words are there in the abstract. It will come that whether 4 to 6 keywords are there or not. So you need to look, and when you'll volunteer yourself as a reviewer, you'll get some of these kind of forms. So look at those forms carefully, so that when you submit your manuscript, you do not have a chance to lose any one of these. Okay, or something which go into the first evaluation when it comes to editor in chief, like in the regimentary journals. Regimentary journals are those journals that are not one man army. They have different people in their group. For example, there is editor in chief, there is an editor, there are associate editors, there are assistant editors, or it is editor and then regional editors, or editor and then domain wise editors. So this more get applicable there. Like in my journal, I am the editor, and I have four associate editors. If I talk about FIIB Business Review, if I talk about the other publication outlets which get published by Taylor and Francis, we are the two co-editors there. Whereas if I talk about the third one by Emerald, we have a bigger system for that. We have one editor in chief, we are the three editors, and we have six associate editors. So it goes like that. And once when the manuscript pass on from one to another, for example, it's come ADM to editor or editor in chief, and editor is assigning associate editor. So at that point in time, they also look at, they just open your manuscript and they scroll down to your manuscript. They really don't need it, read it at this stage. But before assigning to one other, they just want to be sure that it is there. I mean, it's worth passing on from myself to somebody else. So always try to bring a system into the abstract. When there is a structured abstract, there are two style of abstracts. One is the structured abstract. Structured abstract is the abstract where you have everything is in order. Like Emerald's paper, you must have seen that there is a purpose, there is a method, there is a result, there is uh, practical implications. There are different headings on which you need to write that this is the purpose of manuscript, this is the method of manuscript, this is the result of manuscript, and these are the applications. Whereas the problem come with the journals which ask for a paragraph in an abstract. uh, we think that okay, we write sometimes a nice beautiful lengthy paragraph to showcase our study, or sometimes we do not put the information that editor or the associate editors would like to read before they pass on it to one another. So always try to have an IMRD style. This says that you should have some introduction, a line of from introduction, like this is the purpose of my manuscript, and or this is what manuscript state about. I mean, where you introduce the manuscript. And second, you don't forget to write about the method that my manuscript is a conceptual manuscript, have been using the theories or concept from these areas, or my manuscript is an empirical manuscript, having a sample size of 300, using this sampling and following these techniques. Then your results that I got, that trust is more applicable to employees or than to other factors. And your discussion part, that this is how the manuscript is contributing into the body of literature. Then you need to write clearly. Analysis should be well executed. Do not, what more I like to see into the papers that I specifically come to me as a reviewer or an editor. I would like to see the certain sections in the methodology too, that okay, this is the method that you're opting in the methodology, these are the respondents. So have a separate setting, heading for subheading for respondents, and have a subheading for items that you're going to have your empirical manuscript on. Or either, there is a myth that conceptual papers and literature review papers do not have any methodology. It is not so. You may like to write a clear methodology for your qualitative as well as conceptual and review based papers as well. Do not forget to write a section about future scope of research or implications of the manuscript. So these are certain things that editors expect before passing it to reviewers. When it comes to the avoiding some common pitfalls, I'm sure you must be taking care of these, but still I'm reminding you that your hypothesis proposition should be very, very clear. And it should be very clear that how you're measuring or testing the hypothesis in case of manuscripts that are empirically methodology based, and how did you analyze data, and or the quality. If you're opting for qualitative approaches, then please discuss qualitative approaches very decently, in very transparent manner. So when it comes to looking at the top journals, you always should keep certain options for yourself, that as I said, that you must know what is the acceptance rate by the journal, what are the options that you have when you're writing this manuscript, and what is the average manuscript that you're producing in a year, so that you can crack through to some of these top tier journals. So you need to look at all these, and what you can do is to improve. You can look at the previous publications and actually look for some of the recent issues and volumes of the journal. Then before you submit it, maybe you can get it checked with by your fellow colleague, or if you get a chance to have a dialogue with the editor, you may also like to have a I'd request editor to glance through to your manuscript. If you know somebody who is reviewer for that particular journal, then you may like to, because the reviewer may also have an idea that whether your manuscript is suitable or not. So you probably can get it checked by somebody who is reviewing for that particular journal. And be prepared, seek comments, incorporate those, improve upon those. So this is something that you need to do when you are doing an R&R. Then you probably need to be very careful for the top category journals, because this is where maximum paper get rejection. Editor's job into the quality journals or top category journals is to pass on from the desk. So if your manuscript is looking structurally good, written well, then probably it will pass from the desk and will go to reviewers, then the area editor, domain editor, and reviewers are those who pass on a decision on your manuscript, and then they recommend the decision to editor or editor in chief. So there, the responding to the review becomes critical for you, yet it is extremely important. So you need to accept them politely, one without any complaint, because when you look from the editor's lens, what editor expect from a reviewer? Editors expect from a reviewer to critically evaluate the manuscript. They do not want to applause or kudos or appreciate them. We don't want, when I'm sending a manuscript to any one of you to review, I do not want you to appreciate that manuscript. I want you to critically evaluate that manuscript. I want you to give as many suggestions as you can to improve the quality of the manuscript, readership of the manuscript. So these are not personal. You should politely accept them. They have spent time to read your manuscript and responding to it. So you politely accept it, then write a clear letter to when you are responding to review. And if possible, then divide your response letter on two stages. The first stage, or the first part of the response letter, should have some common suggestions given by all the reviewers, because they may have similar. Suppose there are two reviewers or three reviewers, four reviewers in some cases. Then they may have some common understanding, because they keep on doing the review for the journal on regular basis. So they may have, there is a high possibility that both the reviewers or all the reviewers have some common comments to give you. Therefore, you need to address them commonly. And in the detailed response letter, you'll have to pick one by one all of these in a chronological order. So do that, acknowledge their contribution, say thanks to the reviewers. And with every comment, if you're not incorporating, or if it is not possible for you to incorporate, then please do accept it and write your limitation on that humbly. What something I really hate about is the poor response letters. When I get a R&R from any of the author, I specifically look at the response letter, and from the response letter I come to know that how much hard work an author has given. And sometimes I have seen the response letters, like there is a comment and author does say that done, incorporated, and then they come to the second question, then they write done, incorporated. I mean, come on, you need to do a lot of hard work on producing a response letter. We'll show you the sample, will uh, give you more idea about it. So detailed reply has to be there, and constructive reviews you get mostly from the quality journal. So you need to look at those. And if you really want to understand the viewer's mindset, that how would you respond if you'll get such a response letter, or if you have given some suggestions to a author and author have not responded to those questions, or author is bluffing you, then what will you feel? So to understand all those things, I I strongly suggest you to volunteer for the journals where you dream to publish or where you aim to publish, and keep on doing at least 3 to 4 reviews in a year. It will also help you out in understanding that what the domain colleagues are working on, and will also help you out because these journals give you a response when a manuscript get acceptance or get rejected. They reply you on that. So you need to volunteer yourself. When you get a rejection, then I have one suggestion here which is very specific, that do not just change structure of the manuscript as per the other journal and send it to other journal. No, please don't do that. And specifically if you're targeting any good journal, then you cannot do that because these journals have common reviewers. If they somebody who is reviewer in Emerald will have reviewer in Sage. Somebody who is reviewer in Sage will have, will be reviewer in Elsevier as well, or in Wiley as well, or in Taylor and Francis. So journals use reviewers almost on common basis. They have common reviewers, so you cannot just change the manuscript structure and send it back to any other journal. Avoid that. Reason being that if this manuscript will go to anybody who has previously reviewed your manuscript for any other journal, they'll feel very bad and they'll give a immediate rejection to your manuscript, and they can really write hard comments too. So don't do that. Give special attention to the review feedback that you have received, and I'm sure it will not only help you out in selling through to your publication in that journal, will also enhance the quality of the manuscript. So the chances of acceptance would be really high. When you really need to develop a thick skin when it comes to rejection. You need to keep on trying and improving. That's the only way that one can deal with the rejection. Be prepared for the rejections. Rejections will be there, and as I said that there is 95% of rejection, so you need to probably submit 20 manuscript in A to have a few. So so keep on trying. That is what I can say. You develop a thick skin, keep on learning from your experience, keep on learning from experience from different reviewers that you get reviews during your submission, and keep on learning from the editors and your domain colleagues. So even if it is unpleasant, if the review feedback is unpleasant, still you need to take it. You'll have to sometimes take it with a pinch of salt, but you'll have to take it. You need to train yourself to read critically and be adapt to it. That is the only way. You need to be persistent. You need to avoid the shortcuts. You need to understand the mindset of the scholarly community. You are not the alone, but you're independent. So when it comes to rejections and R&R, you're not alone, but everybody have their own standpoint. So you are independent in accepting and learning. It's not a zero-sum game, so keep on trying. And if when you'll get us acceptance, celebrate it. So some focal points are that ground your research with relevance, bring value in your approach, execute your research well in terms of methodology and processes and structure, value the literature that has been published either by editors or reviewers or by the journal. Don't forget to style and format. Thank you. And before I finish, let me show you the uh, response letter as well. Just give me a while. This is a response letter to one of my manuscript that has been recently passed through the review process with Journal of Promotion Management, and I'm sure that you'll get a lot of things by having a look at this response letter.
So your screen is not share.
Yeah, I'm sharing it. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is how the response letter looks like. At first, I said thanks to Hoshiang Bishati that yes, with due respect, I'm highly thankful for your efforts in getting the manuscript reviewed and giving us a chance to respond on the review feedback. And I'm saying that we have substantially revised the manuscript based on reviews feedback. This is what our manuscript is. And when I was saying that I talked about a response letter and details in the response letter. So this is the first half of the response letter look like that we wrote that we have addressed all the comments and observation that have been given by the reviewers, and the review comments addressed are in all chronological orders in the details response in the next section. In the summary, both reviews has had mainly in two parts. So the both the reviewers had observations in the two parts, and we have responded to both of them. So this is the first part of the response letter, where we had these two observations and these both of the observations. So if you see, this is not one liner, or this is not one sentence or two words. This is quite a detailed one, that we have actually done. So this is what we did, and this is the response letter, the detailed one, where we picked up every comment one by one from both the reviewers. That okay, this is the question that they have, and this is the answer. And we mentioned the page number, that on page number 4 on in the second paragraph you'll find it at page number 10, second paragraph. You'll find it till page number 20. So you'll find it if we have used any model or theory that we have incorporated, which they asked to look at lenses. So we have mentioned that too. And everywhere there is are details. So because they know now by this time and this at this stage that what exactly they ask you to change, and did you do that change or not. And the reviewer too had not much comments for us. So this is how we did, and we acknowledged their volunteer suggestions that yes, thank you for your valuable comments. The manuscript has been sent for language copy editing, because these kind of journals, they ask you to have a native English speaker copy editor. So whether your language is so good but your conversational language may not be so good, that what they expect. So they ask me that, have you sent this to a native English speaker? I had to respond. So when they encourage, there can be positive comments too. So we say that, oh, thanks for the encouragement, you are encouraging us, and we apologize, it was our mistake. So we do not, don't be hesitant in accepting if somewhere something wrong has been done. Don't hide that. Acknowledge them that yes, you helped me out in knowing it, thank you. Give them enough respect, and this is what they expect. Otherwise, they do not have anything to seek from you. They do not even know who you are. They were not knowing that this is this manuscript, but yet they have given very good feedback. I'm thankful to them. Over from my side, and if you have any specific question, I'm ready to take on it.
Thank you so much, sir, for this useful and helpful session. Thank you for all the invaluable insight you have given us. It's surely gonna help us in future. Now we are moving ahead toward the question answer session. Sir, there is a question from Vineet Thomas. He wants to ask, how do we get to know the acceptance rate of any particular journal? Over to you, sir.
Okay. Oh, you can get it into some of the review articles. And second is, that when you look at the indexings or rankings, the indexings and rankings are purely based on two. One is that the acceptance rate of the journal, and second is the citation base of the journal. So that give you pretty good idea. Third is you may like to look at some of the transparent indexings like cables directory. If you look for any journal which is indexed in cables directly, where most of the premier journals are, I'll say 98%. So there also you'll get to know a clear acceptance rate of a journal. You can look at cables directory, you can search and you'll get there. Many journals, they openly write it on their website, that the acceptance rate of this journal is so and so. From there also you come to know. If you participate in some of the editors meet, editors also speak about the acceptance rate of their journal. So there are sources through which you come to know acceptance rate of the journals.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the
Please.
insight. I hope the answer is clear. Now, moving towards the next question, sir, there is a question from someone. How much time will be taken to publish in ABCD listed journal? How much time does it take? Over to you, sir.
It can start from 2 months to 2 years. And there is one paper that got 7 years to get published in Strategic Management Journal. And my own manuscript is there in Strategic Management Journal since more than 1.5 years. So it depends journal to journal. If it's a C category journal, it may take 2 months. If it's a B category journal, can average take 6 months. If it is A category journal, then probably it take 6 months to 1 year. If it's A star journal, then again it'll take 6 months to 1 year to 1.5 years, and maybe even more. So in an A star journal, you cannot accept publication. Publication, when I'm saying publication, it's publishing your article on online first. Again, once when you're the process of your manuscript is completed, there is different timeline. Emerald is one, unfortunately, that takes the longest time, up to 2 to 3 months to get your paper online. Sage takes approximately 1 month. Elsewhere is the fastest one I have ever experienced and seen. They give you from 1 week to 15 days. Within 15 days, your paper get online. So when it comes to the review process and the publication, both are different. I have replied to both. I didn't know to which one you were referring, but I think both of these, if you combine together, roughly minimum 3 months for a C category, minimum 6 months for a B and A category. That's the minimum time. Maximum can be very higher.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Now, moving towards the next question. Uh, Mr. Vinny Thomas, he wants to ask, how do we get to know the acceptance rate of any particular journal? Over to you, sir.
I think I have replied this question. I just said that you need to look at the cables
Yes.
directory, you need to look at the indexing of the journal, and sometimes they write on their website as well. So cables directory is one where you can look at, indexing is a second where you can look at, like you may get to the details of Saimago, you'll find it, or you can look at the cables directory. The cables directory is simplest one. When I have to check something very quickly, I go to cables directory or I ask any of my friend to check into the cables directory. It gives me straightly acceptance and rejection rate.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Now, moving on
Please, ma'am.
towards the next question. Is the rejection rate of conceptual research paper is high when compared to the empirical research? Is the rejection, yeah, rate?
Yeah, got it. And okay, dear author or dear audience, um, I'm a conceptual writer. I'm not very good into methodology, honestly speaking, and something that helped me out in getting ahead on my ladder or career, starting from my PhD to my postdoc to whatever progress I have made till today, is only because of the conceptual paper. Because you need to You need a different mindset for conceptual papers. You you need to have a lot of clarity. Acceptance rate for the conceptual paper is higher in some of the journals. Like if you look at International Journal of Management Review, they publish only review, Management Research Review, they publish only review, or AMS Review, Academy of Marketing Science Review, they publish only review. So there are more specific publication outlets that those or Marketing Science Quarterly, or you look at Marketing Theory. Sorry, being marketing scholar, I have more journals which are on in marketing domain, but you can always look. There are specific publication outlets and journals who publish only and only review and conceptual papers. Yet, yes, I totally agree with you. They are less in numbers because these are very hard to write. These are not easy to write. So the only thing that you need to bring in the quality in your conceptual paper. And if editor would find that quality, trust me, editor will work with you to enhance quality of that your paper, because they also do not get these conceptual papers easily. It's hard to find editor and journal, but once you are on the right way, right track, then you will sail through. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering the question, sir. Now, next question is from Dr. Mani Jindal. He wants to ask, is formulation of hypothesis mandatory for a good research paper if it is conceptual?
No, no. In conceptual paper, there is no hypothesis. Hypothesis is only and only in empirical paper. There are prepositions in conceptual paper, and only when it is a structured conceptual paper. You know what is structured conceptual paper or structured review paper? When you have a conceptual diagram in through which you are reviewing, so or you're conceptualizing. So when you have a conceptual diagram, do not ever write hypothesis. Your paper will be desk rejected or anyway rejected, or reviewers will ask you to change that. They need to have prepositions. So conceptual papers do not have hypothesis.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now, the next question is from Dr. Anjali Srivastava. She wants to ask how we can become a reviewer of a journal.
Okay, you can go to the journal's website. You can volunteer as a reviewer. One. Second is you can approach to any of the desk assistant of that journal, or maybe if some email IDs are given there, try to approach to the assistant rather than editor. This is the suggestion. Reason being that if you are approaching editors, editor will not have time, or they will not invest enough efforts, because database management is work for their official staff who are assisting them for these processes. um, Approach them, drop them an email, ask them to add you in the database. I'm sure they will. Or you can go to the publisher's website, create your account for that journal, and there you have option that would you like to review, tick that. You'll automatically be included in database.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope she's clear with the answer. The next question is from Dr. Prabhakar. He wants to ask what is the difference in between H index and I-10 index values?
Okay, you will have to read with Google Scholar that H index and I-10 is that the 10 papers get published in particular time span have the similar number of citations, and H are the most highly citation given to a paper in a particular time span. It can be like 2 papers 2 years, 5 papers in 5 years, 10 papers in 10 years. So that is called as H index, as a represent to the time span and the number of articles.
Thank you so much, sir. Now there is a question from Yamini. She wants to ask, how do we find journals that do not ask for article recessing fees?
None of the good publisher ask for it, Yamini. You should always try international publishers. I stated many like Elsewhere, Emerald, Sage, Springer, Taylor and Francis, Inner Science, Wiley, IGI Global. You're done.
Okay.
Publish
Thank
only
you.
with the international publishers. They do not ask for any fee.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now there is a question from my end. Sir, what do you suggest how to improve a manuscript that has been rejected by many journals? What do you suggest?
I think you need to really look at what reviewers have suggested you or editor have suggested you when they rejected the manuscript. You really need to give it a critical outlook to improve. Also, what you can do is maybe, okay, you can send me that manuscript. I'll be very happy to look at that and see that what is the scope where you need to improve, what you specifically need to improve in that manuscript. One is
Definitely
that you need
forward
to
you.
look at the
Okay.
responses that you received from the previous reviews and editors, and second is you can seek suggestion from any other editor who has not even taken a look at the previous comments. So then you can relate that what are my comments and what were their comments, and if some comments are common, it means you need to actually improve those.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Please, ma'am.
Now, there is a question from Sandeep. Mr. Sandeep, he wants to ask why research paper based on secondary data are mostly rejected.
Because it's a mismatch again and again. We need to have a specific research outlook and specifically in many domains. For example, it is finance. They work mostly on secondary data, panel data, which has already been done. So it depends domain to domain. When it comes to marketing, what kind of secondary data do we have? Or when it comes to HR, what kind of secondary data do we have? It is really difficult to have that secondary data that can actually have strength to produce a quality manuscript. And when editors look at that there is a mismatch, they do not like to take that. Second, there is an option, Sandeep. When you are producing a manuscript based on secondary data and information, and sorry, I forgot to tell you, this is my mistake. There are different types of manuscripts, and manuscripts get reviewed by the editors and reviewers based on the type of manuscript that you choose. You might be working on secondary data and you're positioning it as a research paper. There is a mistake. Okay, there are different categories of research papers. Like it is a research paper, sorry, manuscript. There is a research paper. It's a perspective. It's a viewpoint, or it's a conceptual paper. So, sorry, you need to choose the appropriate option, because starting from AMD assistant to editor to reviewer, everybody is going to review your manuscript based on the category that you have chosen. If you choose a research paper, they will expect more empirical findings than the secondary research, secondary data. So then they will have to say no when it comes to data, and therefore your manuscript will get rejected. Write a perspective paper, submit it into the perspective category, or write a conceptual paper, submit it into the conceptual category. Then they will not ask for empirical evidences because it will not appear on the review form. There your skin will be saved. So positioning a paper into the category where they are more fit is also very important. When you have a research paper, then only say it is a research paper. If, and these all are the research papers, by the way, these all are the types of research, and these are different types. That is, it's an empirical research, or it's a conceptual research, or it's a perspective research. So secondary based research papers are known as perspective, known as viewpoints. So hold the actual category.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering the questions. There is a last question from Prakash Kundani. He wants to ask, sir, for a new researcher, is it necessary to publish research paper with a known researcher or publish it in a good journal? What do you suggest? Over to you, sir.
Publishing in a good journal for a infancy stage scholar is seems actually difficult for a good quality journal. Good quality journals also expect to have good authors. I must not say, but that's just true because I'm speaking about expectation of the editors. Good journals want known people to write for them, and this is what make them known. Okay, so if you will write with someone who have good experience of writing papers for these journals, the chances of acceptance would be higher. And also, that experienced author will help you out in understanding and answering the aspects that probably you cannot think until unless you'll publish a few by yourself and get a lot of rejections. So that experience will also get counted and will be helpful for you. So collaboration would be useful for you, Sandeep. My best wishes.
Thank you so much, sir. If you allow, can we take one more question?
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, sir. There is a question from Ms. Simran that why all free journals take more time for accepting any manuscript?
Because the submission queue is very long. Trust me, many authors are hanging my collar by emails that, oh, you're not responding on our manuscript. Many are humble emails, by the way. But how much paper an editor can read in a week, in a month? They're human beings. I'm again saying they have a capacity. So they can read 15, 20, not more than that. And do you know how many manuscripts get submitted in a year? 500. And 500 in a journal where I am editor. However, I'm publishing only uh, mm, 30 manuscript in a year. So I am getting 500 and publishing 30. So you look the workload. So we work on FIFO, first in, first out. Therefore, it takes a lot of time. And the journals which are more higher than what I am, and therefore they have a lot of associate editors and a lot of area editors. Their team is bigger. Everyone is busy in reading your papers, but submissions are flooded. And specifically in this COVID-19 period, submissions are, oh my God, I got approximately in these 3 months, I was used to get, say, 450 papers in a year, but I got approximately 225 papers only and only these 3 months. Now, it takes time to read.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's really very insightful session with you, and you have cleared each and every aspect that we need to be taken in mind for publishing a paper. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for your visit schedule. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, ma'am. I'm very thankful, and I felt really good that your institute is investing so much efforts,
Thank,
not only for yourself, for also others to learn.
thank
That's
you.
worth admiring. And keep that up, scholars. My best wishes to you. Keep
Thank
on trying, keep on learning. I congratulate you that you came and learned in this workshop, in this entire FDP.
you.
That's the first step.
Thank
Keep
you.
the flame on, keep on learning. My best wishes, ma'am. Many thanks to you. Many
Thank you.
thanks to Sukhbir Kaur, ma'am, and team Anangpuria for organizing this wonderful show.
It
It
was,
was pleasure being here and speaking my experience. Many
and
thanks, ma'am.
it's a privilege for us also to hear your words and hear all the insights about this. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Now, dear participants, please note our tomorrow session is on research ethics and integrity, which would be taken by Dr. Tariq Ashraf, sir. He is the head of department, Library and Information Science, Jamia Millia Islamia. And after that, we have a validity session as well. We solicit your presence. Thanks for joining us today. We are looking forward for the same cooperation tomorrow also. Thank you. And there is a link of attendance you can find on the chat box. Thank you to all the participants and thank you so much, sir. Thank you.